So, welcome listeners to our interview with Denise Brown. Denise started caregiving.com in 1996, I believe, and she is all about caregiving, caregivers, tips for caregivers, supportive caregivers. So, welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Oh, we are thrilled. We're thrilled. So, I'm going to let you tell your story about how you started this and just a little bit about background.
Yeah, so I started working with family caregivers actually in 1990. So I was in the middle of a career change and I wanted to do something that was more meaningful. So I started working with family caregivers in a couple different health settings, and I was fascinated by the stories that they told. And I'm a writer. That's really what I do. And so as a writer, whenever there's a compelling story, you just want to stick with it. So that's what really captured me with caregiving. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of support out there for family caregivers. So I thought, why not marry what I know in terms of publishing and then what I know in terms of family caregivers and create a business? Exactly. So I did that and launched caregiving.com in 1996. And I'm just about to celebrate its 21st year, which feels, incredible. Wow.
Awesome. Wow. And you mentioned books, like you've written 8 books, right?
Yeah. So one of the books, right. So there's a couple different types of books. So one is a volume series, which is about the family caregiver's reality sprinkled with hope. And those are my take comfort books. So I really look at what's the reality of caregiving? What does a family caregiver feel? And then how do they keep going even though they feel guilty or angry or frustrated? How do we get them to a better place? And so that's what the Take Comfort books are about. And then the Caregiving Years is a book about the 6 stages. So in 97, I started thinking about caregiving as an experience of stages. How do we really look at caregiving as an experience that's not just about one moment, but about a stage, a series of stages? And so I created this concept which takes caregiving from one stage, which is the beginning when you think you might be caring for someone in the family, all the way through after caregiving has ended. What's life like for you after caregiving?
Wow, that's neat. That's really neat. And did you say you had a personal caregiving experience?
I do now. I didn't at the time. At the time, I didn't. So I help my parents right now, they are 85 and 82.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And can you tell us a little bit about what a day in the life of caregiving for your parents looks like right now?
Yeah, so right now they're doing great. So it's awesome. So I don't have to do a lot for them other than provide emotional support and a little bit of driving and just making sure that they're okay. But they have, situations that crop up like any family caregiver experiences where there's a hospitalization and then the situation changes. They wanted to live independently in their own apartment, which is what they do right now. And so that is working out great, which I totally doubted them on. I thought, this is stupid. It's not going to work. So what do I know, right? So what I learned is that they know best. And so I really try to follow their lead and try to get out of the way. And one thing that I really learned in caring for my parents is that I had to let go. Now I know this, but what I learned to let go of is my idea of what a good death for them is. So I wanted them to live in a retirement community. They did move into one for a short period of time. My mom hated it. My dad liked it. And my mom rules the roost. So my dad followed my mom's lead. But what I liked about the retirement community was they had access to immediate help. If there was a fall, no one was laying on the floor waiting for me to come.
Right.
All they would do is call and a CNA would come and pick them up. And I thought living in the retirement community meant that they would have a more peaceful, gentler death. So they would have services around them that would help them. We wouldn't have something that was tragic like a fall, someone's laying on the floor and then dies.
Right.
So that's not the death they envisioned for themselves, though. And so what I really had to do was let go of, that's the vision for my death. That's not the vision they have for their death. Their death is let's just live independently. If we fall, heck, we fall.
Yeah.
We're just going to deal with it.
I'll share. I think most of the listeners know that I work for hospice. And one of the most important things I have learned from the clinical staff that works directly with the patients is that so much of this is about control.
Yes.
Because they sense a loss of control over their life, meaning maybe they can't drive anymore, maybe they would need to wear Depends now, and they know that they're not able to do some of the things they used to do. And so it's so important to hang on to every little piece of control you possibly can, even if it means you would feel better if they were in a facility with a lot of support around them, but that's not what they want.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I hear what you're saying, and I know with my own mother, she was not able to hold her bladder, and my sister, who's a nurse, would get so frustrated with her because, you know, it's a problem, there's a solution. You're losing control of your bladder, put on a Depends. She didn't want to do that, and it wasn't until one day when I said, what do you think about wearing Depends? I mean, how do you feel about that? And she said, you know what, I think I'm going to try it. And so it was her decision. It wasn't me saying, Mom, you got to put on some Depends. It was her making that decision. So she had control over whether she was going to wear Depends or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad was in the hospital a month ago. We didn't know what was wrong. He kept going to the doctor. The doctor kept listening to his lungs, didn't feel like there was anything going on. And then in the hospital, it turned out that he had a liter of fluid in one of his lungs, so, which is why he was exhausted. So anyway, so he's in the hospital for a week. He's discharged. The next week, he participates in an activity at the retirement community. Now, they don't live there anymore, but they love my dad, so he still goes back and participates in activities. And they had arranged for the vets who live in the community to go and fly in a World War II open cockpit plane. So my dad did that a week after being discharged from the hospital. So So to me, I think, oh my God, what is he doing? But he loved it. He said it was one of the highlights of his life. And I think, you know what, they are teaching me so much about how to live.
I was just going to
gotta let go, just live, right? You gotta let go of the worries.
The name of this telesummit is It's About How You Live, right?
Right.
Make the most out of every day.
Yeah. So here's the interesting part of it that I had to let go of too. And that is, so my parents make decisions to live independently, but the impact of those decisions affects me too, right? So they live independently. They can't call a CNA to come to the apartment when there's a fall. They have to call me and then I have to go.
Right.
And I let go of that completely in terms of resenting that, because I thought that's just going to completely destroy the relationship with my parents. Right. That's going to put us into a tension-filled relationship, the tug of war, right? Exactly. So I let go of that, and I thought, you know what? Our relationship is so much better once I just let go of all that, let go of imposing what I believe is a good death on them, and then just being open to what it is in terms of how they define it, and then letting go of the impact. You know, so I have to get up and go and, you know, pick them up off the floor at 3 a.m. You know, it's not forever. It's not forever. Wow. And the thing is, my relationship with them is so much better now.
And yeah, oh my, so I'm anxious to read your 9th book. You've learned from your own personal experiences and all the lessons. I actually had a few questions I want to just be sure we cover, so the listeners can get as much wonderful information from you and your expertise as possible. So we hear about family caregiver stress. Mm-hmm. How stressed are family caregivers?
Okay, so we hear about it, right? But what is it? So I decided to actually track family caregiver stress starting in December 2015. So visitors and members of my website take a very simple stress test. Basically, they rate their stress on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being the least stressed, 5 being the most. Mm-hmm. Now, I did that intentionally. It's not 1 to 10, because when you're stressed, how many choices do you want? Not many, right? I mean, what's the difference between 7 and 8? So anyway, that's stressful. So I did 1 to 5. And then I asked them, what's the source of your stress? And I gave them 23 different choices. And the choices range from time, I don't have enough time, to money, I don't have enough money, to battles, I'm battling with my caree, I'm battling with family members, I'm battling with the healthcare system. So since I started doing the survey, just about 600 family caregivers have rated and indicated the source of their stress. And the stress number always stays the same. It's 4.17. It's gone down to 4.16 for a short period of time, but it stays at 4.17. So, yeah. So the majority say it's either 4 or 5. So they're really stressed out, right? No one has said 1. No one has said 2. A few have said 3. The vast majority say 4 or 5.
Wow.
And then the number one choice is that I miss my life. So we know caregiving responsibilities take time away from your life, right? Yeah. My sleep, right? So I'm getting up in the middle of the night to go pick up my dad off the floor. That interrupts my life because it's interrupted my sleep. So family caregivers miss their life. They can't get to what's important to them, whether it be a relationship or an activity or just time spent not worrying. That is stressful when you think about you can't enjoy your own life because of caregiving responsibilities.
Right. I actually visited a family yesterday doing an information visit about hospice at the hospital. And the mom, who's the caregiver, was so worn out. She said, I can't remember another time that I haven't had less sleep in, X number of days. And through my description of the different hospice services, one of them is respite care, where if you have an inpatient facility, the hospice patient can go to the facility simply to give the caregiver a break. Well, the son was mortified at that. He said something like, I think that's awful that caregivers would not want to take care of their loved one. And mom was sitting there in such need of a break, but son thought that concept was horrible. And so imagine the stress she's feeling that she needs a break, but she will disappoint her son if she takes a break.
Right. The judgment, right? Yeah. And it's frustrating to hear that because caregiving ends and his mom is going to be adjusting to life after caregiving ends. And the best way to adjust is to live during caregiving, is to take the break, to stay connected to the relationships, the activities that you enjoy. My parents were telling me about a friend of theirs just recently. His wife died. And one of the things that he did while he was caring for her over a period of, 10 years is that he faithfully went hunting and fishing with his friends.
Aww.
So now that he misses her, she's gone, but he has that. He has this circle of friends that he's connected with who understand his story. So when he shows up to hunt and fish, they know what he's done for the past year. They know that she's recently died. Now think about what that would be like if he had to go back to that group after being gone for a period of time. How stressful is that to insert yourself into a group again? So it's too bad the son doesn't see that. That's so frustrating. His mom has to live her life. And it's, we hear all the time, it's important to take a break because we want to be the best family caregivers for our family members. But you know what? It's because it's us. We want the best for ourselves. And the best for ourselves is a break. Is staying engaged in our life. Yeah.
You probably have heard, and if you haven't, and to the listeners, we have had caregivers taking care of hospice patients, their loved one. The caregiver who doesn't take care of themselves winds up getting sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly if it's an elderly couple.
Yes.
There was one married couple that the gentleman was our patient. The wife was his caregiver. She fell ill, became a hospice patient, and she died before he did.
Yeah.
Because she was worn out.
For sure. And we know that stress is a risk factor for all kinds of diseases. So if we don't have a chance to get away from the break, we're exposed to constant chronic stress. And that's a huge risk factor for our own good health.
That's right. That's exactly right. why do we feel like we lose ourselves during caregiving experiences?
Yeah, this is a common one too, and it relates to a little, it relates to the fact that we've lost touch with our life, but I also think it relates to what we do during a caregiving day. So we can feel like the one thing that we do on a regular basis and are great at is washing laundry, right? Changing beds, right? Pureeing a meal, right? Getting our carry in and out of a car. I mean, it just feels like we're fantastic at all these responsibilities and tasks that we've mastered, but yet we think, but is that who I am? Is that who I am? And I think that's how you lose yourself, because the focus of your day is so much on the responsibilities and the tasks that you forget, you know what, I'm also a painter, I'm also a writer, or I'm also, a comedian. Whatever it is that you are involved in gets lost. I was talking to, I'm sorry, I was talking to a family caregiver yesterday, and she was talking about the fact that she received the gift of an improv class from her husband a few years ago. And so she became an improv actress. It's something that she's had to put on hold because of caregiving. That is how we lose ourselves. Right. So she's an improv actress, but right now what she's doing is take care of her family. Not to say that that's not invaluable, and that there are blessings to it.
Right.
And yet it still doesn't feel necessarily like maybe the choice that we would make if we had all the choices lined up.
Right. And I think it's important that when other people offer to help, like if you want to go to a play, but you don't, and this happened to me, I wanted to go to a play with a friend of mine, but my mother was within like a couple of days of dying, and I was so afraid she would be gone while I was gone. And we had a personal friend that came over and stayed with my mother so I could go to the play. And that was a really hard thing to do, but she basically threw me out the door and said, go see that play. It's going to be okay. And so I did. I guess what I'm trying to say is when people offer to help, say yes. Learn how to say yes.
Yeah. And so the caveat that I would offer, because that's a very common scenario that you just described. So it's the end of a carrie's life. You know that time is really limited, and you're thinking, they're going to die while I go. And so it's a very conflicted decision. So I think what's important to give family caregivers to do is permission to say, at some times, it's not the best time to take a break. And I learned this because of a workshop I was giving years ago, and we were talking about basically taking a break. And as I was going through the workshop, there was a family caregiver in the back who started crying. So I said to her, what's going on? And she said, I hear this about taking a break, but my carrie is dying, and I can't take a break because I don't know how many moments I have left with him. And I think it's important to empower family caregivers to make the decision that's right for them. Certainly say yes. Do not feel guilty about it. Do not become that martyr that just does it all.
Right.
You can do it all with help.
Right.
So take the help and give yourself permission to know that there are some times, some circumstances where you might want to say, now's not the right time.
Right.
I'm going to do this later.
Exactly.
Don't put everything off. Don't put everything off, but there are some times that it's okay to say, I'm just going to take a pass right now.
Yeah, especially as you're getting closer to, the signs look like end of life is probably pretty close.
Yeah.
And to that point, I just want to make sure we're watching our time, because I have so much I want to get out of you, but there will be people who wait for everybody to get there, the whole family, they wait and then they die. And then there are other people that wait till everybody leaves.
Yes. Yes.
So you got that whole.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So here's another question. Why do we often feel like we're failing during caregiving?
Yeah, we have too much to do, right? And so we're trying to be everything to everyone. So we might have spouse, children, other important relationships in our lives, and we feel like they always come second or third or fourth. The carry and those really feel like urgent needs come first. So we feel like we're failing in the relationships. And then if we're still working, we feel like we might be showing up for work, but really our head is in the caregiving game, right? So we're not doing what we want to do in our career. And then we can feel like we're failing ourselves. Maybe there's things that have happened that we thought, well, why didn't I know that? I should have prevented that. Oh my gosh, I had this long conversation with a family caregiver in our chat room the other night. And he really was thinking, why didn't I know my parents were in such a difficult state until there was a crisis? Why didn't I know? You know, we can beat ourselves up forever. And that's why we feel like we're failing. We feel like we're failing because a Carrie's natural disease process continues, right? We feel like we should be able to interject and stop that decline. But hey, that's natural. You know, we're not supernatural. And then we feel like our relationships kind of fall by the wayside, so we're letting people down, career, and then just ourselves. We're so stressed out that sometimes we feel like, I know I should walk. Gosh, when I was in a terrible situation with my parents, they were both hospitalized at the same time. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. And I would think I should walk. But the only thing I could do was lay on the couch at the end of the day and watch Law and Order SUV. Is that what it's called? Special? I always call it the car instead of what it is. You know, Law and Order. Because I could maintain the car. I was laying down, and there was a beginning and there was an end. And I was in a situation with my parents where I was in the middle, and I couldn't see the end. And so there was a show where everything tied up at the end. The bad guys got caught. The good guys won. It was just really reaffirming to me. I couldn't take the walk, but I could watch that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So what I just asked about losing yourself. So how do we find ourselves again?
You know, I think it's really about giving ourselves a fresh start. And it's as often as we need. It could be the fresh start in the morning. It could be a fresh start throughout the day where you just say, oh my gosh, the day isn't going really great. Let's start over. You know, or if it's something that you said that you think, wow, that really sounded terrible, you can say, you know, forgive me. Let's start over. I want to have more patience. I want to have fun today. Let's find the laughs. And we forget that, right? That we can start over at any time. We carry the baggage from the moment before or the day before or the years before into the moments when we can just release them and say, I'm going to start over. I'm going to give myself a fresh start. And that really involves forgiveness too. Just forgive yourself. And I also think, oh yeah, go ahead.
Earlier, what the things that your parents are teaching you.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
When you are learning from the person you're caring for, then let that happen and then hit the restart and move forward with that new knowledge.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's forgiving ourselves. It's forgiving ourselves for being human. It's a good thing that we're human. We are exposed to a variety of emotions, and we know that the bad is balanced by the good. So the pain is balanced by joy. So in a painful experience, really catch those moments of joy. And when you have joy, really catch those too, because you know that those too will pass. So it's all about the perspective. And I think when we have the perspective, we can find ourselves again. We can forgive ourselves. We can be open to the experience.
Absolutely. And you may have touched on this a little bit. This is my last question.
Okay.
How do we redefine success during caregiving?
Yeah, so a family caregiver was sharing a story with me about how she defined a successful day. So she cares for her mom. Her mom has Alzheimer's disease. And so for her, a successful day was when her mom smiled. And I thought about that and I thought, well, what if we switched it around? And so I suggested to her, well, what if a successful day is when you smile? Right? Because we think that it's outside of ourselves. Right. So a successful day is when our carry doesn't fall or, you know, the meal is ready on time. But it's really within ourselves to have success. When we can show up fully present, when we manage to smile, when we find the humor, when we say yes to help, right? When we communicate that we need help, that's all our success. And it's non-contingent on someone else giving us something. It's all contingent on us taking control of a moment.
Right. I
had a good day because today I smiled. Right. I had a lot of tears, but then I figured out a way to smile. That's huge. That's success. Right. That's success.
Yeah, it really is. And that makes me think about that family I met with yesterday, where the caregiver needed a break and the son really wasn't happy about that topic. I was so impressed with the gentleman, the patient who, was ill. He had such a great sense of humor. I mean, he was cracking jokes and making people laugh. And, here they're asking about information about hospice, which is a very difficult thing to do. But he was finding opportunities to interject humor. And I just thought that was awesome. I mean, there's so many people who, it's so overwhelming. There's no sadder time in our life than somebody is about to die.
Yes.
We're getting on the short strokes of that. Maybe we've only got a few months or a year left or whatever the case may be. But to what you're saying, when you can find that reason to smile in the middle of whatever sadness is going on, that's the yin and the yang, right?
Mm-hmm.
To try to keep it all, the human experience balanced.
Yes. So I coached a family caregiver who started caring for her mom who had a stroke when she had 3 young children. Her oldest was 5, her youngest was 9 months.
Oh my God.
So she really felt that she was robbed of her children's childhood. And so she tried to shield her children from caregiving. And basically what she did was kept everybody in the house and drew the shades, which is her intent was good, right? She was trying to protect the family from difficult moments, and she was the one that was going to bear it. But you can see what that did to the family. So when you're tempted to draw the shades, do it for a short time. Sometimes we do have to kind of withdraw and, kind of take care of ourselves, but then open up the shades. There's life during caregiving. There's life when someone is dying. That's the natural progress of life. And your story of the gentleman who's dying reminds us of that. We want to live fully, regardless of what's going on in our life. How we define it, how we find success, maybe is a journey in itself. And there's good days and there's bad days, but it's important to really think about, let's just live. Let's live. Let's live.
Yeah, let's make the most out of this day. And hopefully there's a smile or even a laugh in there somehow, some way. So, Denise, you are so awesome. I've enjoyed this so very much. And now I'm very excited that for the listeners, you are going to offer a free gift. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the free gift is a 2-part webinar. Each webinar is 30 minutes. Basically what we do is we help you figure out what's the impact in your life right now from caregiving. And then how do you manage that impact so it doesn't spread, so it doesn't overtake? So I think about impact in this way. Is it that you don't have time for relationships that are important to you? Is it that your career is on hold? Or is it something like a family caregiver described to me a few weeks ago? She hasn't been able to file her taxes because she is so stressed out by caregiving.
Wow.
What's the impact on you? Let's figure it out. No shame. There's no shame to it. Everybody is impacted. There's something that maybe you've lost hold of that you want to grab onto. It's good. We'll figure it out and then we'll cope with it. We'll manage, we'll resolve it. Right. And that happens in a 2-part webinar series.
Great. Great. Well, thank you for offering that. That's such a wonderful gift. Fabulous gift. And I just want to remind everybody that if you were not previously aware or knew of Denise Brown, she is the owner and founder of caregiving.com. That website is so packed full of resources and information and chats and bulletins and blogs, and it's just a huge, wonderful resource. So thank you, Denise, for being
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you so much. I so appreciate this.
Oh, no, I'm the one honored that you were able to take the time. So thank you very, very much. And to the listeners, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you at the next recording.